Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another epic video. I hope you guys enjoyed the meme. It took way too long to make, but I thought I'd tailor it to the topic of this video. We're still unfortunately on 4 subscribers, but nevertheless, I am optimistic that we'll reach 5 by the end of the year. If you want to leave a like and subscribe, I would much appreciate it. Anyways, let's get back into the video. Oh, first off, kind of crazy uploading 2 days in a row. Maybe that deserves a subscribe. Anyways, actually into the video. I thought I'd make a little tier list of all the streamer games events that went on about a week ago, as well as some suggestions. So I'm gonna format it in like 3 ways: what I would keep, what I would change, slash the suggestions, as well as making the actual tier list itself. Alright, let's get right into it. So here's the list of stuff that I would like to keep from Streamer Games 2026. First off, huge shout out to Ludwig for making this happen. I didn't get to watch this live, but I watched a lot of the Red Bull stuff as well as stuff on Ludwig's second channel and Instagram Reels, and it looked like a pretty fun vibe overall, as well as to do research for this video, of course. Alright, here's stuff I would keep. First off, the Lily Pichu events. This is a direct quote from Ludwig, and it's a type of event that, well, people who aren't very athletic are good at, would be good at, you know, so that everyone can be good at, because streamers aren't exactly known to be the most athletic people in the world, and as a streamer kind of games, it wouldn't be exactly fair to just choose the most fit, fastest person on each team to win. So I think this was a great addition. In this game, there were several. I think Simon Says definitely uses a different muscle, half and half, paper airplane throw. And while a lot of these events do have a tendency to not work, I also think they're like a mandatory addition to streamer games. I'm really glad he included them. I also think pre-planning teams, making international teams, nation teams in this game really brought a lot of competition. It gave a lot of these streamers a lot of incentive to win, to represent their country, and I think incentive is a lot of the main focus, both the good and the bad, of streamer games, because as you may know, streamers don't exactly have the most incentive to just win, rather their main incentive is just gain views. Now here's a list of some stuff I would like to change / improve upon. Similarly, adding on to the incentive idea, I would like to potentially make there be more incentive for streamers to actually try hard and win, and follow the rules is a big thing. I think there's a conflict of interest, as I said before, of drawing attention to yourself versus actually winning. And there's no point of streamers to really listen to the rules, which was a big thing that Ludwig was talking about, how it's a big problem, how all the streamers kept breaking the rules and no one was being honest and stuff like that. Streamers, I feel like, aren't built to follow rules. Like, it's not in their mindset, it's not in their job description. Their whole point is to, in fact, break rules. For example, in like a classroom, when the teacher is telling the class to, you know, be careful of dangerous stuff, the kids who are actually listening to the teacher are the ones who wouldn't be in danger in the first place, whereas the ones who aren't listening are the ones who are probably going to get hurt or do dangerous stuff, you know, forget the rules, stuff like that. And I say this being knowing both sides of the story. Like, I've been the one listening, and I have been the one also not listening. So some potential fixes for that would just be to be louder. You know, volume is, at the end of the day, kind of like the biggest power to get people to listen to you. So a bigger megaphone. I know they had speakers, but, you know, very clearly repeat stuff, kind of like you're talking to toddlers in a way. And maybe some clear punishments for cheating would be nice as well. I also think it would be nice to include more flashy sports. I know Ludwig talked about how he wanted to give everyone their moment where they could stand out, and I think he did a good job of that, but it would also be nice to include some flash, some drama as well. I also think it would be interesting to include some hype intros, walkout songs, stuff like that. As a League player myself, I didn't really know a lot of the streamers. I only knew like Dante's, Tyler One, those people, and the really big streamers, of course. So I think having a little placard under the name that kind of goes through what that streamer does in their free time, or I guess not free time, while they're streaming usually, would be a pretty interesting addition. Just to introduce the streamer to new audiences potentially as well. I also think it'd be a good idea to maybe script out some of the interviews and stuff like that, especially at the beginning. I think all the streamers were kind of like caught with their pants down. Is that the right saying? That sounds like a wrong saying. But they weren't really prepared for the interview questions. So giving them proper like mic training. Of course, you know, professional athletes, you can't really compare them to streamers in terms of preparedness. And even professional athletes themselves sometimes are pretty awkward around the camera. And you can't really expect everyone to have Conor McGregor levels of mic training and stuff like that. But one big change slash idea I have is to include more crowd interaction. I think this isn't an exact sport, so I think it's fine to involve the crowd as much as possible. I think this audience is also not your typical sports audience. It's more of like a Twitch viewer, Twitch streamer kind of audience, which is a distinct kind of audience. It's definitely probably spend more time indoors than outdoors. So I think it'll be a really cool experience for them to be able to interact with the streamers or interact more as a crowd, kind of like make it a concert or something like that. So some ideas I had was t-shirt shooting. I know they do this a lot at big games, sports games, and I think this would be a great addition to streamer games as well. Just have a big cannon that shoots out a t-shirt maybe once an hour or so, just to keep the crowd engaged, keep retention up. Similarly, it'll be cool to shoot the winning team's jerseys. Obviously not the ones that they were actually wearing, but just a copy. Say that whatever team won the particular event would get their jersey shot into the crowd. As well as some free drinks, you know, as a Red Bull sponsored athlete, I think it would be a great idea actually, to have, you know, discounted or free drinks. I say that wanting a free Red Bull myself, so I'm a bit biased. But I think it would be a great idea, as well as to invite some vendors for some tacos or whatever street food there is. I also think it'd be cool to give out some goodie bags, especially people who stay up till the end, just as a thank you, with some cheap stuff, you know, badges, pins, stickers, stuff like that. I also think adding a bit of a mist to the crowd, just like whenever there's a hype moment, would be interesting, not just for the aesthetic of having mist shoot into the crowd, but also for the literal effect of cooling them down a bit. It seemed like really hot for everybody. I also think it'll be a great idea to give them some craft stuff to make posters. I think this is a new concept. I know a lot of sports places, like all of the sports places, don't do this. Sports arenas, you know, concerts, they kind of expect viewers to make their own and bring them there. But I think for this type of game, I think it'd be fine to have some cardboard, some big paper, some Sharpies, tape, stuff like that, so they can make posters for their favorite content creators and stuff. I also think it'd be cool during halftime, or I guess halftime / lunch time, where you can invite some viewers to the actual pitch so that they could play some games against the streamers. I think this obviously has some safety concerns if you want to do things like archery, but for things like volleyball, dodgeball, I think it would be a cool addition and a good chance for viewers to participate as well. Finally, my last general idea, is to give professional coaching, even for just 5 or 15 minutes at the start of each event, just so we, as the viewers, have a bit of a relative scale of how the professionals of each sport would perform. Things like track, I feel like the first heat had a bit of problems because everyone's false starting, running the curves, stuff like that. If there was a professional demonstration, I think it would go a lot smoother and be a lot more hype for the crowd as well. So definitely including a professional would be pretty cool if you can make it happen. Similarly to what we already have though, in addition, in fact, I would think it would be cool if it was double points for the whole day, for the second day, not just the final event, but really give all the teams, even at the bottom of day one, kind of rejuvenated spirit for at least the start of day two. Obviously, Ludwig did a version of this with the double points for PK, and I think that's a great idea. I just think it'd be cool to have it for the whole day as well, because I think at the end of day one, he mentioned how some teams literally couldn't win. I think that's kind of sad, so it would be nice if each team saw a chance at the start of day two. All right, now into the actual tier list. Let's get it. first off is the 100-meter dash, which I'm going to put into the C tier. Now, if you didn't know, for my tier list, it only has 4 tiers, A, B, C, and D. A are events that went really well this time, or events that I think should always be in streamer games, no matter how well they go. They're the epitome of these sorts of events. Everyone has fun, it's a good vibe, there's some drama, it's flashy. B tier is also good events. They aren't necessarily mandatory to keep, but I think it was still enjoyable this time. C tier are events that are just not that enjoyable to watch, or have a few flaws that I think, if we fixed, could be a really interesting game. And D tier is just games that, you know, you can't save it. It's too bad. But on that note, the 100-meter dash is going to be in C tier. I think this time it felt a little bit lackluster. It's a pretty simple event, obviously running 100 meters. It's a very quick event, lasting only about 16 seconds maximum. And it was so filled with controversy, with people cheating, running the curves, running in front of each other, stuff like that. I think this could be fixed if we switched into some sort of relay or added heats, which are my 2 suggestions to make it a little bit higher up. But as it is right now, I just didn't think it was to the caliber of the other events of streamer games. Now, second event was musical chairs, which unfortunately I'm gonna have to put in D tier. Everybody cheated again. It's hard to pick out who cheats. It seemed really hard to play, and it wasn't that fun to watch, at least for me. I think there were a few pros though, such as a fire aesthetic, especially the drone shot of all the contestants from above was really cool. But overall, I just don't think we just need to see this game again. Next up, paper airplane toss. And this is going to C tier. This is a category of event that went really badly this time, but I think could be fixed. So, a few ideas I have are: one, just what if, instead of one person, this is also a team event, right? So everyone in the team can participate. And how they all participate, they all make one really big paper airplane. I know Red Bull runs some of these events where people make a giant airplane glider thing and they jump off a dock and someone actually rides in it. That's a bit dangerous, especially for streamers who have little to no experience, little time and stuff like that. But I think just everyone making a big paper airplane as a group, with preferably more supplies, and just tossing it off a really tall building would be a really fun experience overall, and a lot more flashy and aesthetic, if that's the word. I also think it would be cool to keep the two like a 2-run system where you can have the first run and the second run and just keep the best of both runs, especially because with such a big paper airplane you wouldn't be able to rebuild the whole thing. So you'd have to make sure your paper airplane, or if it's paper / wood, it would have to have a smooth landing. So you have to have some sort of plan on how to not destroy it with the first heat. Alright, next up is archery, and unfortunately archery is also going to have to go in D tier. It had some pros, like it was an interesting scoring system, it had a bracket, it's also a pretty novel sport. I don't think a lot of people know archery, which might have been also a con because no one's good at it. But the cons are, of course, it was pretty boring to watch. The scoring, while it was good, was also kind of confusing. Sometimes a player would hit both the dummy and the net and the target, and sometimes they get points, but sometimes they wouldn't. It was kind of hard overall to track. It wasn't very flashy. It was kind of slow. So I just don't think we can salvage archery, unfortunately. On to the next one, which is crate stack. And crate stack, I'm gonna have to put in A tier. This was an amazing event to watch. I think the competitors had fun as well. Overall, it had a lot of drama. The time limit was good. People were moving quickly. It was a one-on-one knockout bracket, so it felt personal. There was an added flair where people could choose their own opponents. It was also interesting because different types of bodies, which kind of like the Lily Pichu event, like it was hard to tell who would be good at this. Sometimes they had guys, some teams chose girls, and everyone kind of figured it out on their own way. There were some cons that people were using the same quote-unquote meta, which was the 1x2 stack. And there was some confusion about the rules, like how much could the the grabber, the runner, the person on the bottom, how much could they help? Could they use hands? What counted? I know some of the competitors looked a bit confused when they lost. They thought they had won, but they had lost. And even Ludwig himself kind of got confused sometimes about which team was winning. So I think making that crystal clear would be a good addition. I also think it would be cool if instead of 2 people, it would be the whole team. Obviously with just 2, it's kind of intimate, it's a one-on-one connection, but with the whole team, I think there'd be a lot more diversity for strategies. That would be a pretty interesting addition. But overall, A tier. Next up, volleyball, A tier. Do I even have to explain myself? It's a great game because even if you aren't too good at volleyball in general, you can still have fun. And people who are good, do well in it as well. It's flashy, it's a team event, it has some drama to it. It's good overall. Alright, on to day 2 now. And the first event is going to be the Q-word toss. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to put this in C tier. The pros to this are that it's kind of a new concept idea. I don't think anybody has done anything similar to this before. Unfortunately, this is kind of a second iteration to it, and this year felt a bit too much like just a shot put event. And it was a bit slow because obviously each person has to go individually. I think if you were to save this, it would be cool to include everybody on the team and have a kind of team total rather than an individual, which would kind of involve the team a little bit more. But overall, Next up, we got half and half, and I think maybe which is a controversial opinion, but I think half and half is actually a pretty good event. Like by design, maybe the execution of this time didn't go too well, but I think by design it's a good event. I think he should definitely give it a shot next year. The pros are it's a new concept. Obviously, I see some videos of German half and half, what was it, pretzel, breadstick splitting competitions on Instagram, but other than that, I've never seen it on such a big scale before. And it's pretty luck based, which gives a lot of people a fighting chance. It was a bit more dramatic than I thought, but obviously the cons are it's boring to watch, it's kind of long, and I think a few ways to fix this are to use less time so it goes by faster. That'd be great, as well as using different objects. I feel like the objects used this time, like an apple, a watermelon, are definitely pretty symmetrical, so I think it'd be pretty interesting to give them a very, very asymmetric object and watch how different people have different strategies to cut it in half. I also think it'd be an interesting idea if Ludwig continues to use food to give the audience the food that people cut. Obviously this has some sanitary concerns, but it's just another good way I thought about for involving the crowd. But let's be for real, Ludwig did kind of fuck up the Ortiz sisters. I feel like it's the watermelon was pretty symmetric to begin with, but now it's like asymmetric, which makes it harder. And objectively, it's harder to cut small stuff more accurately, you know, rather than big stuff, just because it's harder to control and whatnot. But anyways, that's beside the point. Next up, bull riding, which is also going to go in the A tier. It's very fun, it's very novel. Now, do we need this next time? I'm not sure, but it was definitely a very dramatic event, and a lot of different people were good at it, which is kind of interesting. It's hard to predict who's going to be good, and I feel like that's what makes an event good, you know? Next up is the dodgeball, which I'm going to have to put in B tier. It's a good event, it's a staple, it has a track record of working, but I think this year people were cheating too much, so it would be good to change up the rules a little bit for next year. Also the scoreboard, there was kind of no point in it because it was so delayed, and you could also tell who was winning just by looking at it, so I think the scoreboard was a bit redundant. But next up is the Simon Says, and I think this is a pretty controversial event overall, but I think it still deserves to go in the B tier. It's definitely hard to be good at. I was trying to follow along, and I think I saw a lot of people in the crowd following along, and they would get out so quickly. So it's definitely an easy event for the crowd to follow along in, which is nice. And it uses a different kind of brain power than the other events. That being said, The format is a bit confusing, especially with the VAR replays. There was a bit of controversy with that. Is the Simon, like if the Simon doesn't call you out, is it fine? I think it works if the streamers have a bit more integrity, but unfortunately they didn't. So that's what kind of went bad with it. I think in the future, you know, a really strict VAR system, or like just using what the Simon says to be the final judgment would be two good ideas. I also think that it kind of rewards people for being both slow and having small movement. Like when people tap, you can tap really aggressively or you can tap really small. And if the Simon says, like Simon says, hands up, you could do it right away or you could wait a second. And I think people weren't getting punished for waiting just that 1 second, which I think kind of defeats the purpose. But overall, B tier. I think it's a great game. I think it's interesting. I think it's new. But yeah. And last up, we have the PK shootout, which is obviously going to go into the A tier. Pros. I was really surprised at who was good, who managed to score, who couldn't score. It's definitely a lot of pressure. It's the end of the night. It's double points. It's a lot of drama. It's a team versus team bracket. It let a lot of people have their, you know, their moment, which is the thing that Love was trying to make. The cons were that I didn't understand the format. I feel like who could be the goalie was a bit unclear, at least to me. So I feel like my idea would be that each person on each team can only be goalie once and only shoot once, which is the only change I'd make. Other than that, I think it was great. Anyways, that's it for this video. I have some more thoughts I didn't want to include because this video is already getting pretty long. So if you want some more of this, or even if you don't, let me make another video, screw you. Going over some more thoughts I had, as well as some more new event ideas that I came up with. So if you want to see that, leave a like and subscribe down below. Thank you guys so much for 4 subscribers. Let's get 5. But this is it for this video. Have a good rest of your day. Peace out.